Welcome to Gate City Insider. I'm Rosemary Plybon. In the fall of 2015, families across Guilford County were thrilled to learn we would become a Say Yes community. A nationally recognized student support and scholarship program was establishing a chapter here with the potential to radically change outcomes for students for decades to come. Nakia Slade remembers hearing the news, barely believing it. She was finishing up her senior year at the Middle College at Bennett, and her dream was to go to college and become a social worker. Thanks to federal grants and help from Say Yes Guilford, she enrolled at North Carolina A&T the next fall, and last month, after only 3 years, she graduated with a degree in social work. Well, that is part of the Say Yes plan, scholarship for eligible students. And this past fall, more than 1,000 students actually benefited from that Say Yes Guilford support. Robert Pompey is co-chair of the Say Yes Guilford Board and Vice Chancellor of Business and Finance at North Carolina A&T. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you get involved with Say Yes originally?
Well, I was a member of the Guilford Education Alliance for a number of years, and this concept first came to our attention. So I've been involved from the initial planning and visitations and just setting everything up since it started a number of years ago. So it's been an enjoyable time.
When you initially heard about it, what did you think?
I was very excited because I realized that how education is so key to the future of our kids, and I realized how many of them struggle and find that cost being a challenge or barrier to them getting their education. So this kind of provided that hope for them and that light that knew that there could be some assistance for them at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so talk about that. Explain kind of how, let's first talk about the scholarships for North Carolina public colleges and universities. How does that work?
Sure. So this is a last dollar tuition scholarship program. And we provide that scholarship support for the students attending our 16 four-year institutions and our 58 community colleges. And basically based on the cost of the education, based on the grants, federal and state, that the students are receiving, and based on other institutional scholarships, the Say Yes kind of fills in that blank at the end of the day, and that's why we call it that last dollar tuition scholarship.
And when you talk about tuition, it's important to remember tuition is part of what you pay to go to college.
That's
there are
right.
other fees that are included too.
There are other fees that you pay to go to college, your tuition, your fees, your room, your food, and things like that. And what the Say Yes scholarship covers is just the tuition portion.
So there are also opportunity grants available because some students will get a lot of federal aid after filling out their FAFSA.
That's right, that's right. So for the students that have the most financial challenges and they receive the maximum amount of financial aid with one of our grants, that pretty much covers their tuition. So the opportunity grant kind of provides funding for them to cover some of the other expenses, books and supplies and things of that nature.
What about private schools?
Sure. Well, we have what's called within Say Yes a college compact. And that's an agreement where we have with a number of schools across the country, which allows either the students to go there if they're under a certain dollar threshold from an income standpoint, tuition free, or if they're over that dollar threshold, they receive a $5,000 scholarship from our Say Yes local area. So students can go to all types of schools, from Wake Forest University, Duke University, to the Ivy League schools. So it's really providing them an opportunity to go to schools that they may have never dreamed about going.
Yeah, this is a real big dollar amount.
These are really big dollar amounts.
That's correct. Really adds up to a big impact when we kind of add not only the scholarships that Say Yes Guilford is giving, but also the partnership with these compact schools.
That's right. And to your point, we have impacted well over 1,000 students within this past year. And when you think about what other initiative that do we have within this community or any community, we can impact 1,000 students in college on an annual basis.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's good work. Well, I want to show another photo because this one is Madison Powers, and Madison really understands the power of those compact scholarships. She graduated from Eastern Guilford High School in 2016, and she qualified for a full scholarship to Greensboro College. That's her with her parents right now. They were thrilled, of course, maybe even more so than she was initially. She's completing her degree in education. She hopes to graduate next spring, 2020, and she's actually one of about 70 Guilford County school students attending Greensboro College. So that's a big number too. I mean, impacting our local schools. I mean, North Carolina A&T obviously has a lot of students as well who are impacted by this this support program.
That's
Say as
correct.
Guilford.
It's been a game changer, not only for North Carolina A&T and UNC Greensboro, but you talked about Greensboro College, where they've really increased the number of students and increased significant participation because of Say Yes Guilford. They are not only receiving funds from Say Yes, but they're making significant sacrifices on their end. So it's really been great for our community and great for our state.
And of course, not every student will qualify for a Say Yes award, but that doesn't mean Say Yes can't support them on their way to a post-secondary education. The scholarship team I know is, every week leading workshops to help them, especially with their FAFSA completion. Can you explain what FAFSA is?
Sure. So FAFSA is a federal financial aid form through the Department of Education. And it's something that if you are getting any type of aid, federal, state, even within your university, you have to complete this form. And you complete the form, and then it will return back to you what your expected family contribution would be. In other words, what you would need to pay or probably be required to pay towards your college education. So the important part about that is if those forms aren't completed, there are a number of scholarships that our students could be receiving and grants that they would not otherwise receive. So it is extremely important.
It's that first step, and people
right.
might be surprised if they fill it out that they really could get some awards.
That's correct.
From different places.
That's correct. And even there are federal loans through our Department of Education. And if you don't complete that, you're not able to get any of those loans.
Madison, I think, is a great example. I asked her what she planned to do after she graduated. And she said, well, I always thought I would leave Greensboro. And she said, and then I went to Greensboro College and I started this education, I started this journey, and I realized I'd like to give back and do something for the community that supported me. And so now she wants to come back and teach here in Guilford County Schools. To hear that, does that kind of bring it home for you about the whole reason we're doing this?
It does. I'm the son of two public school teachers, and I understand the value of education. My parents were first-generation college students. And when you give a student that light and that opportunity to receive the education, it changes not only their lives, but it changes generations. So my parents received their education. So the expectation was that I go to school and get my education. The expectation of my kids were that they go to school and get their education. There are few things that you can do in life where you're impacting generations other than what we're doing here with education. So it's truly important what we're doing, providing a number of students that did not think that they would be able to go to college, that opportunity to go to college, receive an education, and change not only their life, but their future generations.
You talked about that promise and that kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. For so many students, school is a grind. It really is. You start when you're 5 years old, and it's every day, and you're looking a long way down the road. It's hard for them to picture, especially if they haven't seen it before, going to college and that next step of career, especially if they didn't see their parents doing it.
It is, and so that's part of our role within Say Yes, is to provide that hope and that opportunity and that exposure and that interaction and that support, not only while they're in school, but also the scholarships and things that we're supporting when they're out of high school and into college.
You have children of your own?
I have 3. Yes.
So you know the cost of college.
It's very expensive, and I've worked in a college environment for 20 plus years, and it's getting more expensive on an annual basis. Are there things that we're trying to do within our state to reduce the cost of education? But it is an expensive proposition, and you have kids and families that are making a significant sacrifice to go to school.
So what advice do you have for young families and who are starting to think about it, or kind of wherever they are in their journey? How do you plan?
Sure, I think there are a number of things that you can do. There are savings plans that we have here within our state where you can even start saving funds and putting money away for your kids. The other thing that you can just make sure that we're doing is just making sure that we're doing everything we can to support our students and to prepare them, whether it's through parenting or through within the school system, to be successful and to be able to graduate and go to college. There are a number of colleges that you can go to within the state of North Carolina, and depending on your budget and your affordability, you can go. A number of our students that may say, I can't afford to go to a 4-year college coming out of high school. They go to one of our great 58 community colleges, of which we have an outstanding one here in Greensboro with GTCC in Guilford County. They go and they get their 2 years education, get an associate's degree at a very affordable level, and they then transfer to one of our 4-year institutions where they're able to go for 2 years at that greater cost, but they've made something that may not have been affordable much more affordable as they go forward.
Well, and really across the country, people look to North Carolina because our public schools are so affordable and so good. I mean,
Yeah.
frankly, what they do.
Yes. So we're very blessed within our state. We have the support of our legislators, our governor. We have the support within our UNC system, all those things. And their goal is to make education attainable and to make it affordable. And in comparison to a number of other states, we've done a great job. There's nothing that you can say that I want to do that you cannot find a college in North Carolina to do that and to meet that need. So it is a great place to live, and it's a great place to go to college and further your education.
So coming full circle a little bit,
Yes.
so from your beginnings with GEA and kind of seeing this idea about Say Yes coming to Guilford County to now where we are 3 years into it, and scholarships rolling along, about the 4th class getting ready to start filling out those applications. How do you feel about Say Yes Guilford and kind of the promise it still holds?
I think Say Yes Guilford is an excellent idea. It's an excellent organization. I think we've done a lot of great things by offering our kids these educations. I think that with the things that we are doing and going to be doing to support our students in these schools currently, it's just going to be that example for a number of other initiatives and a number of other communities. We could not have pulled this off without the great community that we have here in Guilford County, and the great partnership and people being willing to work together and being selfless not only with their time but also with their talent, and equally important with their treasure.
And of course, that support and partnership will just need to continue to make sure that it's successful in lifting up these students, not only to get into college, but then to start those careers too.
That's correct, and that's what we're looking to do within our community. We not only we want to be able to support you while you're in K through 12. We want to prepare you to go to college and be successful there. But then what we want you to do is come back to our community. We want you to come back and work and play and live and do all those things. So we have a plan as a city and as a community to just make all those things happen, and I think we're doing an outstanding job.
All right, well, there is a lot more. Thank you so much for being with
You're
us.
welcome.
We certainly appreciate it. And of course, scholarships are just part of the Say Yes package. When we come back, we're going to actually talk about the support services and how they are really lifting up students in school and beyond. Stay with us. Welcome back to Gate City Insider. Today we are getting a closer look at Say Yes Guilford, the scholarship and support program designed to connect students and families to services and opportunities that will prepare them for not only high school graduation, but a post-secondary education and ultimately a promising career. And Mindy Oakley is actually the board co-chair of Say Yes Guilford and executive director of the Armfield Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I know you have been with Say Yes Guilford before it was Say Yes Guilford, really, before it ever came. Talk about that. How did it happen that Guilford County landed this opportunity?
It was actually unbelievable, and it's amazing that we did, honestly. So I think, as Robert mentioned, I was also involved with Guilford Education Alliance when this idea first came to light, and the Guilford Education Alliance really rallied the troops to promote ourselves as a community to the Say Yes to Education folks up in New York. And we knew they were looking for a new site, a citywide site, or in our case, it ended up being a countywide site. And they did a great job of rallying us together to show off all the great things that we have going on in Guilford County and why we'd be the next best place for their investment. We at the time had and we still do, but we had a different superintendent who was really leading the school in a good direction. We had a lot of really wonderful things happening in the schools. We have a philanthropic community, and we have lots of engaged leaders, and so we really got their attention. They looked at something like 65 different communities across the U.S., and they selected Guilford County as their next chapter. It was a great accomplishment for our city and for our county.
It's really exciting. And I mean, Say Yes was coming into a much larger community than it had ever worked before.
Yeah, so Guilford County is double the size of any of their prior full city community. So they'd worked in both Syracuse and Buffalo. Our school district is double the size. We have 2 municipalities, more than that, but 2 main ones, both Greensboro and High Point. So we are a really different community than they'd been in before, but I think they saw the opportunity in that.
Of course, it was met with a whole lot of excitement here, and
Yes.
continues to be.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of boots on the ground, a lot of work to keep it going. Why was that something you really wanted to dive into? Because you have.
Yes, I have, for sure. And I think it was a really interesting intersection for me of both personal interests and also professional interests. So personally, our family is committed to Greensboro, and we're committed to being in Guilford County. And so it's really important to me that our school district be strong and that this be a place that people want to live. Professionally, I work for a foundation that invests in education, so this was a perfect storm for me of where I could really get involved and make a difference.
So we talked about the scholarships, and that's sort of that promise that, as Robert said,
Yes.
kind of the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
But to really lift students up, to even give them the hope for that, they need some supports.
Right.
And so that's really the idea behind the support services, which has really kind of started to take root this year in
Right.
Guilford County Schools. Can you talk about what that even means?
Sure. I think for a lot of people who invested in this program in the beginning, the services were actually the hook more so than the scholarships. The scholarships are fabulous and a really important part of this program. But the idea of bringing in services that make sure that more students are ready to go to college and are really prepared for that, I think was what ultimately got a lot of folks involved, including the foundation that I work for. So the vision for that is that we're working within the school district to make sure students have what they need to be successful. And that isn't necessarily that there are not services today in the schools, there are, but it's thinking differently about those services, how those services are coordinated and how they're delivered to students. So it's making sure that as we're thinking about that trajectory, we're not just thinking about making sure students have their basic needs met, but also thinking about whether or not they're even aspiring to go to college. That needs to happen young. We need to be talking about college with parents and with students in elementary school so that that's on their radar. A lot of choices they make in their middle school and high school years affect whether or not that's an option. So we need to have those aspirations earlier. So those support services are designed to be comprehensively looking at what does it take to get to the point where a student has the option of going to college.
Okay, so we're going to put up a graphic, and this is going to show the schools
Great.
that we're working in right now. So 12 pilot schools for the student support services.
Yes.
And these really represent kind of 3 different areas of Guilford County
Yes.
and a feeder pattern of
Yes.
elementary, middle, and high school. Is that right?
So it was very intentional to make sure that we had feeder patterns. It's great to be able to serve students throughout the course of their time in Guilford County schools. So an elementary school to a middle school to a high school. It was also really important to us that we not just be centered in one part of our county. We're a big county.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure we had schools in Greensboro, schools in High Point, and then schools that were more in the county, a little bit outside of the urban centers. And so those 12 schools were selected for that reason.
And so work is going on here now. So what does that look like? I mean,
Yes.
really to see it.
And it looks a little different in the different schools, as you would imagine. One of the things that we were really fortunate to have happen over the last year is that we've got 3 retired principals who have stepped up to lead teams that work with these schools. So they've reached out to principals, they've met with the principals to talk about what their needs are in the schools, and then really design the services to meet those needs. And so in some schools, they've needed help with tutoring, after-school tutoring. So our support services dollars has gone towards that. In other schools, they've needed better coordination around the delivery of services such as food. In other schools, it really just depends on what the principal said they wanted, but often it is the communities are rallying behind these schools to really embrace them. So one of the best things that happened this year happened in High Point. Barnes & Noble donated books to the elementary and middle schools in High Point, and that wouldn't have happened without Say Yes volunteers being involved and connecting the resources to the schools that needed it.
And that really is that connection point, because we're talking about community agencies that are already doing really good work
Right.
in and around our schools.
Right.
But sometimes the families and the schools don't even know they're there.
Right. And honestly, the schools themselves are doing really great work with families too. And so our goal is not so much to deliver services, it's to help to be an additional resource to galvanize the services, coordinate the services, and make sure the right students are receiving the right services.
And so I know that Say Yes Guilford has kind of zeroed in on parts of Guilford County Schools'
Yes.
strategic plan to really focus some of those support services. Can you
Right.
explain what those are and why?
Sure. So one of the things we learned through Say Yes, and this is our 3rd year of being involved, is that it's hard to tackle the entire K through 12 continuum all at once and everything that's needed within it. And so we're really trying to align our resources and our energy with the strategic plan that Dr. Contreras put forth last year. So the 2 areas that we are the most focused on is 3rd grade literacy and making sure that we have the resources within the schools to really make a progress toward that goal of more students reading on grade level by third grade. And then the second one is more students in a career pathway. So Dr. Contreras has a really great plan for more career and technical education within our school district. So it's thinking about how we can better support students as they're thinking about those options as they're entering those pathways.
Okay, so when we talk about career pathways, that seems like an obvious connection point for Say Yes Guilford.
Definitely.
And looking ahead to post-secondary certificates, degrees,
Definitely.
or even leaving high school ready with a certificate to start a job.
Definitely.
So explain how third grade literacy kind of fits into that.
Third grade literacy ultimately is what puts kids on a path towards college. Making sure kids are reading at grade level by third grade is a predictor of a lot of things later in life. And one of them for sure is college readiness. And so that's a big element of Dr. Contreras' plan because it is so important to later success. And so our efforts there, I think, will make a real difference. The other important thing to remember is that we have another huge initiative in Guilford County called Ready for School, Ready for Life. And that's focused on early education. So with their investments in early education, students are going to start showing up differently for kindergarten, more ready to learn. That's the goal of that program. And so if we can also be thinking about our third grade curriculum and making sure that we are picking those kids up in pre-K and kindergarten and continuing that trajectory, they'll be set up for success throughout their school years and well beyond that.
And partnership, cooperation, I keep hearing these words that
Yes.
is woven into the fabric of what we're doing and being a part of this system with students and families all working together.
Yes, that's a huge part of this. I think part of what Say Yes to Education saw in Guilford County was a community that knows how to collaborate. We have a long history of getting a lot done in this community because we've got generous philanthropic support. We have businesses that care about the community. We have a strong school district. And we have a lot of leaders who step up to lead in ways that really matter for our community. And I think this is another in that chapter. This is a really important initiative that would not be possible without the support of lots of different people being involved. And it takes all of us. And I think we've been fortunate to have lots of folks raise their hand and say, count me in, I'll do it.
And still looking for more to do that.
We are definitely looking for more. So we're still raising money for the scholarships. That's a really important part of this. We are going to need a lot of hands and feet in the schools to help us with these efforts for support services. So I think there's a place for everybody in Say Yes Guilford.
Because ultimately, you're in 12 pilot schools right now. The plan is to expand to touch every student at every school.
Definitely. So I think it's important to remember that it's hard to go from 0 to 60 as fast as we'd like to. So we're really trying to ramp up. So we're in launch schools now. We hope to sustain that and then scale it over time. So we want to touch every student in Guilford County Schools.
And understand Say Yes Guilford has a new leader.
We do. Wendy Poteet joined us. She's wonderful. She has her most recent position was with the Forsyth Promise over in Winston-Salem. She's got just tremendous expertise. She's super smart and she's a great leader. We are really fortunate to have her leading our efforts, and I think we'll be hearing and seeing a lot more of her in the days and weeks to come.
And she's familiar with the school system. Not only has she worked in it, but she has worked as a mom through it.
She has, yes, she has. The toughest job right there. So she's got 2 sons who have graduated from Guilford County Schools, and she has a rising 9th grader. So we are really fortunate that she's bringing her skill set back to Guilford County.
So talk about the future a little bit. Where do you see this Say Yes Guilford and its impact in the next 5 years and in the next 50 years?
That's a great question. I think we do think about it in that same sense of this is a permanent initiative for Guilford County. This matters for our future as a community. And so over the next 5 years, I think we're continuing to impact students through scholarships. I think we'll be really launching our support services in a way that will let us expand beyond those 12 pilot schools. I think our vision, honestly, is that we need to raise the money to support both sides of this effort, so both the money in the schools on the support services and also money to support the scholarships. And I think the more we can show the impact that those things have on students and families' lives, the easier that fundraising becomes. So we're really in a phase now of kind of putting our head down and doing the work and hoping that the work will speak for itself.
And Robert kind of mentioned, too, that perhaps this could be a model for other communities in the future.
I hope so. I mean, we're definitely using the Say Yes to Education framework, but one of the beautiful things about our initiative is that it's locally owned and operated, so we can adapt that framework to meet our context. And I think we're going to learn a lot through that process, and I think it's going to be something that will be very valuable to other communities as they're thinking about taking on initiatives like this. We are, of course, immediately focused on ours and making sure we can do the best that we can, but I think over time there'll be a lot to learn from what we do and how we succeed here.
You are clearly excited about this and continue to be excited even after all this time. How do you keep volunteers and partners engaged and excited like you are?
I think ultimately all you have to do is go into the schools and see the students. I mean, every single one of the students in Guilford County Schools is so worth this effort. Every one of them. And right now, not all of them are going on after they graduate to college and career. And there's no reason why that's not happening. So I think when you go into the schools and you see these kids, you can see their potential. You can see what they need and what they want. And I think it's hard for any adult to do that and not think, how can I help? So they make it easy. The kids are worth it, definitely.
And how can you get involved? If you want to be, folks watching, want to get involved with Say Yes Guilford, what's the easiest way to do it?
The easiest way to do that is we've got a website. It's sayyesguilford.org. You can also call, our contact information is on there. You can call our office. We are definitely going to need volunteers. So call our office and we'll put you to work.
Yep, just stay informed and say yes.
Say yes. That's our motto for sure.
Yes, Mindy, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
It's great to hear an update, and we're going to try to actually have Wendy come on in the next couple of months so we can hear more from her about her vision. And be sure to go, again, that website, sayyesguilford.org. You can learn more about the scholarships and support services. You can also register for scholarships there, and you can also sign up to be on their newsletter list so you can find out about all the things going on. Thanks so much for joining us for Gate City Insider. Have a great day.